Good day, everyone. My name is Captain Christopher Spencer with the North Collier Fire Control and Rescue District down here in Naples, Florida, which is on the southwest part of Florida. Today, I'm honored to be sitting with a dear friend of mine, Mr. Jerry Sanford, who is a retired FDNY lieutenant, and we're going to talk to him about his career in the fire service in New York and down here, and everything about life in general.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be back here in the North Collier Fire Department.
So Jerry, you know, you're been the mentor for a lot of people down here, a lot of us older guys and a lot of the newer guys that are out there as well. And they wanted to know a little bit about the history of you. I mean, where did your parents come from?
So back in the 30s, his name is Pierre Spinetta. So, you know, the opportunity in the WASPy world back then to hire a young man by the name of Peter Spinetta was not going to happen.
Right.
So I found out that he changed his name to Jerry Sanford. No idea. I should have asked my father why he chose that name. Okay, so anyway, so now he gets hired by Guarantee Trust Company. Okay, so I'm Italian. I'm a little Italian on my father's side, and my mother, Callahan, she's all Irish on my mother's side. So growing up, I was on Staten Island, and had great. Staten Island was like it's a borough of New York City, but it's like it was out in the woods. Okay, we were like clan. It was farms and sheets and goat and all that, you know. And you had to take a ferry to get to Staten Island or a bridge to New Jersey. So went to school. Went to a. This is kind of a. My father wanted me to learn a trade. All my friends, they were going to a, what do you call it, a regular high school. No, I want you to I want you to learn a trade, so I want you to go to a vocational high school. Okay, so I went to a McKee Vocational and Technical High School, okay? And the first year you had, when you were a freshman, you took 4 different classes. I had sheet metal, auto mechanics, electrical, and plumbing. And for the first year, and you rotated through those different shops. So I decided, gee, I think I'll do electric. So for the following 3 years, I was learning to be an electrician. Okay, so I graduated in June of 1955. I went from 51 to 55. So I go out to try to get a job, and I go to the union halls. And guess what? My name is not Spinetta, it's Sanford. So they're like, hey, all right, kid. Yeah, we'll get back to you. You know, if it was Spinetta, I'm not saying I would have got the job, but I would at least had a half-ass interview. So Jerry Sanford was like, okay. So all through the summer, I would go out, the summer of 55, until my father, who was a banker, I mentioned that earlier, he came home one day and said, Gerald, he said, I got a job for you. Oh, really? Where's that? He said, in Bankers Trust Company. Oh, what, they looking for an electrician? He said, no. No? Well, what am I going to go to a bank for? I think you should go to the bank. So for 3 years, I took Ohm's Law, red wire, white wire, blue wire, all kinds of crap, and I wound up going to work at Bankers Trust, which really made a lot of sense, you know, when you think about it all. So anyway, so I at that time, I had joined the Naval Reserve, and when I was 17, I entered the Navy Reserve, and then I had to go away for 2 years active duty. Wall Street back in those days was getting a little sketchy. Firms were going out of business. So he said to me, why don't you did you ever think about being a cop or a firefighter? I said, no, what are you, nuts? So one night he said, come to the firehouse. So I went and I rode with the squad. That was way back before it was like a bread truck. It carried hose and extra men. It wasn't like an engine, it wasn't like a ladder, they just carried extra gear.
Were they like a salvage company?
Yeah, like somewhat like a salvage.
And were you riding in Staten Island or?
No, this was in Manhattan. This was in Manhattan. I think it was behind Luchow's in Lower Manhattan, around 14th Street. So I got on this bread truck, and my God, flying through, we were going all over, like, oh man, this is cool. Oh my God, we're back to the firehouse, and the meals, they were just, I won't go into the other part, but they had I had a good time. And I said, wow. So I started taking exams, listening to Jimmy, So I took the New York State Trooper exam, the New York Police Department, and the Fire Department. And I passed all three, and I got put back. To this day, it's called civil service. You take a test, you get a mark, and you're put on a list. It's not like, I'm not going to say here, but in other parts of the country, it's if you know Uncle Louie or Cousin Josephine, you go to the head of the class, you know. So anyway, so I was on the list, and I was making about $12,000 a year on Wall Street, which was blood money. That was working a lot of hours, a lot of overtime. In July of 1965, I got called to be a New York City police officer. So I had no idea ever that I was going to be a cop. But so I switched. I resigned from F.S. Smithers and I became a police officer. And the starting pay in 1965 for a New York City patrolman was $7,032. 7032. And I play that number every now and then. And I thought Barbara was going to divorce me one day. I go, you went from $12,000 to $7,032? Yes, I did. And I got assigned to the Lower East Side, the 7th Precinct. Here I was, a white, Irish, American Catholic kid, and I get assigned to an all-Jewish Puerto Rican precinct. Wow, what a difference. Holy moly. Men walking around with little funny things on their heads. I had no idea, talking a different language, chasing junkies up and down tenement houses and guns out and all, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I was just on Wall Street. I was doing IBM machine. What am I doing freezing my ass off on the sun? Oh, it was cold. So anyway, I stayed in the precinct for 2 years, and then they were looking for cops to come to closer to their home, which was a big mistake. I wound up coming to Staten Island. And you would say, why was that a mistake? Well, you know, if I was going to be a cop, I wanted to be where it was at least a little action. I didn't want to stop. The people I stopped, I knew. Oh, they just ran a red light. I'm going to give them a ticket. You know, that kind of thing. And as far as making a collar, you know, who are you going to arrest on Staten Island? There's nobody. You know, nobody that. So after 3 years, I finally got called to the greatest job in the world, which I'm sitting right here in this beautiful, beautiful building. And I got called over to the New York City Fire Department. I went into probie school and in 1968, and went through a hell of a summer out at the Rock, the old Rock.
Was that still on Randall's Island?
It was, no, on Welfare Island.
Okay.
I think it was Welfare Island, if my memory serves me correctly. It was. They had a training tower. They had before me. They trained in Manhattan. Then years later, I think they went to Welfare. Yeah, I think that's where I went, Welfare Island, and then to Roosevelt Island, Randall's Island, as we know that. So I then went through a hot summer. And the chief in charge of the division of training where the probies are, he hated ex-cops. Oh, that would be me. Oh, wow. And about another 25 ex-cops. Well, needless to say, we got picked on. If everybody did 4 miles, we did 6 miles. If everybody did 8 push-ups, I did 80 push-ups. You know, it was just brutal. But you know what? I was bound and determined, and I got through probie school. He was called a bear. He looked like a little fire hydrant with hair on him, and we called him the Bear. I forget his name because I don't want to remember his name.
What was the starting pay for firefighters when you got in? And what year was that again?
68. Okay. It was up a few thousand. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't 7,000. It might have been 9.
I wasn't living on Park Avenue.
No, you know, and you know, somebody told me, you go on the job. You're not coming on the job. I can tell these kids here too when I talk to them. You're not coming on for the money. You're coming on for the job. You know, right. It's the greatest job in the world. We got our assignments and we're in this big room and everybody, where did you go? Where did you go? And so I look up at the assignment and I see ladder 23. So I said, oh, that's not bad. 23rd Street in Manhattan. Gee, how bad could that be from Staten Island to 23rd Street? And I'm going, yeah, I'm going to 23rd Street. They're all like, 23rd Street? There's no firehouse on 23rd Street. Oh, yeah, ladder 23. You going to Harlem. Oh, where? Harlem? Oh, man. So I got assigned to Ladder 23, 139th and Amsterdam Avenue. In fact, this past Sunday, I didn't go to New York. It was their 125th anniversary. They were formed in the late 1800s. And this past Sunday, they had their anniversary. And because of my health and what's going on in New York City, I didn't travel. But anyway, I was there as a probie, and I was the first probie in 8 or 9 years to be assigned there.
Wow. So, Harlem has a history of being a hot spot of old law tenements, new law tenements,
Right.
and brownstones, and renovations, and alcohol, drug problems, and guns, and crime-ridden. And how'd you fit into the neighborhood?
You just did, you left the doors open.
Was it because the people respected
People, oh
firefighters?
yeah, it was like it was like an oasis. You got to run. The doors went up. You just took your shoes, left them there, got on the rig, and out you went. I mean, we helped them with all kinds of medical things, a Band-Aid, air in the kids' tires of the fights and stabbings and stuff. It was like a hospital. It was like a mini hospital, firehouse. It was like that all over. It was all over like that, all over the job. This was in the beginning of what we call the war years, the 60s into the 70s and 80s, and then you'd hear, oh gosh, they broke into they took stuff out of the firehouse and all. So then we had to close. Then we started closing the doors, and that really was really the start of the decline of the relationship, of the neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just, when we couldn't. They still came and knocked on the door, but we had to. It was
Sure.
different. We would now shut off from the people we were always trying to help.
Right. So then you're now working in the heart of Harlem, 23 truck, and you've been there a couple of years. You're starting to make a couple of bucks. Not enough. You decide to test to become a lieutenant.
Yes, I started studying, and again, the trip from Staten Island to Harlem was starting to get to me. So I then was able to transfer to Ladder 131, which was in Red Hook, Brooklyn, which made the trip kind of half. And if it was an hour and a half, it was only 40 minutes or so on good days. And when I was going to Harlem, I would have to go this is crazy, I would go over the Goethals Bridge, go up to Jersey Turnpike, and then back over to George Washington Bridge to get to work. Well, here was just going over the Verrazano and to Red Hook. So I stayed up there. I stayed in 131 for a number of years. And then a friend of mine, Jim Rulin, who I mentioned earlier, his brother, Donald Rulin, was promoted to battalion chief. And a battalion chief gets a firefighter to drive him as an aide. So I went I agreed to go with Chief Rulin from Ladder 131 to the 4-8 Battalion. And I was his aide there for a number of years. And then he said, let's go to Staten Island. So then we both transferred to Staten Island, which was going to, it was like Staten Island as a cop, except I was at the fire department. Food on the stove, some brush fires, that kind of stuff. So I really wasn't too happy on Staten Island. But anyway, he gets promoted to deputy chief. So all the new deputy chief appointments, they go to fire headquarters. So I followed him up to fire headquarters, and I said to him, look, besides getting gas for the car, I want to get involved with some programs in headquarters. And at that time, computers were just starting to show their face in industry and all over. So I got involved a little bit with some computers at headquarters, and then he went on medical leave. He had a very bad colitis or whatever you call it. So there I was. I would drive in with his staff car to headquarters, and I wound up driving a chief here, driving a chief there, but got involved with the different programs. In fact, the fire commissioner was Charlie Rivera at the time, and he was the first Hispanic firefighter to go up all the ranks, from firefighter all the way up to fire commissioner. So one day, as I'm sitting outside, I wound up driving on occasion my mentor, the chief of department at the time, Bill Feehan, who, sadly to say, was killed on 9/11. A wonderful man. He, again, rose up through the St. John's University graduate. He rose up through the ranks. Anyway, Frank Martinez walked back. I was driving Chief Feehan, and he stopped at the office, at my desk, and said, "We have an opening in the press office. Think about it." And meanwhile, you mention the press to anybody, you run the other way. I'm thinking, what are you, crazy? Why would I want to go in the press office? Okay, so that was the end of that. So I went in the next Monday. I walked in and I knocked on the door and I said to Chief Feehan, Frank Martinez came by and he starts laughing. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "The fix is in." He said, "Charlie and I want you in the press office." So this is the chief of department and the fire commissioner asking for me. Because by that time I had close to 20 years. I had worked during the war years. I knew my way around. So I wound up going into the press office. And the commissioner, Charlie Rivera, came to me and said to me, you have any clothes? You have any suits? I said, "Yeah." He's, "Okay, this is the last time I want to see you in a uniform. From now on, you wear a suit here." I said, "Okay." So went home, and I had from my old days, and my father was a banker. He looked like every day he worked out of GQ, and I kind of followed my father's. I had a lot of nice clothes, even though I was a firefighter, which is rare. Firefighters only have maybe a suit that they wear maybe for the annual company dance, and that's it. So I go to the press office, and it's about an eighth of this room we're in now, and there's a woman there. Her name is Pilar. She's my secretary. I have a secretary, and I have about 3 or 4 light duty firefighters working for me in my suit and tie, and know nothing about the press. I could write a little bit, but anyway, so there I am, and trying to learn how to be going to fires and stuff, and standing and talking to the media in the street in front of the fire building, in which I used to be on the other side. I used to be in the fire building, going in and fighting fire. Now I'm reporting to the press what's going on at the fire. So talk about learning from the street. I really did, and so that was kind of started my career in the press office.
How long were you working in the press office before you retired?
Oh, about 9 years.
So then when you finished up your term, when was that in New York when you said, "I'm retired"?
1997.
1997?
I retired in 97. I came in the job in 68 and I retired in 97. And Maria and I came to Florida in January of 2000. We left we sold the house we had on Staten Island and we came down here. So I see in the Naples Daily News that there's going to be a CPR refresher course at Naples High School. Oh, so I look at it. I said, "You know what? Saturday I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go down to this CPR thing." So I go down to Naples High School, and they put us all in this big auditorium, and I'm sitting there, and this woman comes out with a red jacket on, and she said, "I'm Chief Diane Flagg from EMS, blah, 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 blah." Oh, okay. So I'm thinking, I'm going to ask her for a job. What do I got to lose? So it's all over after the 2 hours of mouth-to-mouth and pressure and this and that and put your hand, And so I'm walking around, I'm looking for this Chief Flagg. And of course the little EMS munchkins running around, they're all talking into their da-da-da-da. And I said, "Where's the chief?" "Oh, the chief." It's like, "What are you talking about?" "I talked to the chief." So I finally hunt her down, and this is an interesting story. And I said to her, "Hi, Chief." I shake her hand. I said, I wouldn't let go of her hand. I'm shaking her hand. I said to her, "I need a job." She looked at me like, "Who are you?" I'm shaking her hand. I said, "Wait a minute, I got something to show you." So I take out my business card. Kind of impressive. Jerry Sanford, press secretary, New York City Fire Department. It's only the largest fire department in the world, and I happen to be the press guy. "Oh my God," she's like. I said, wait. All I want to do is go to work. All I want is a job. Okay, I want to drive. I'm driving my wife crazy. She says, oh, well, I have somebody that does the media. You don't have Jerry. I remember that. She looks at me like, who the hell are you? She said, let me call my guy on. Who do you think walks over? George Aguilera. George. Who
Chief Aguilera.
Chief Aguilera here. I just gave him a hug 10 minutes ago. So George comes over, and he's looking at me like, who the hell are you? So I take my card, give him the card. And we're chatting, blah, blah, blah. He says, wow. He said, I know a fire district that's looking for a public information officer. So that was Saturday. So Sunday, Monday, I go out and play golf. I come home, and Maria said to me, well, Grandpa, you better forget about your golf clubs. I think you got a job. I said, what do you mean? She said, I had a conversation for about an hour with a chief from the North Naples Fire Department, or some fire department. His name is Jim Tobin, and he's from Massachusetts. What? Massachusetts? Okay. So I call him up. He said, well, you want a job? I said, yeah, I want a job. Come over tomorrow and see me. Okay. So I get suited up. I put my New York Madison Avenue suit on, white shirt, red tie, the whole 9 yards. I come over here to this Station 45 with my resume. I walk in, everybody's looking at me like, at this time, fire prevention was over here, and so I walk down, and everybody's looking at me like, who's this guy? So I walk in, I introduce myself. I forget who his secretary was at the time. That was quite a while ago. And he takes my resume, sit down, takes my resume, throws it down the end of the desk, and he says to me, hey, you want to listen to Brooklyn Fire Radio? I said, really? I'm thinking, this guy a buff? Next thing you know, he turns around to this computer, and next thing you know, I'm listening to the dispatcher from Brooklyn. And I'm in Naples, Florida, and I'm hearing fire engines being dispatched to fires and all from Brooklyn. We're chatting, never once did he look at my resume. Hey, where did you work? Da, 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 da. What are you doing here? I said, wait a minute, you're from, where are you from? Pittsfield or Worcester or something. Pittsfield, I think. About 40 minutes into talking, he says to me, you see that Crown Victoria out in the parking lot there? I said, yeah. Is that your car? My car? You mean I have a job? He goes, yeah. Don't you have to go to anybody? Which really pissed him off. He's like, I'm the chief. I was like, what?
That's the way it was.
What do you mean you're the chief? Don't you have, I says, chief, I came from this commissioner, before you get to the chief. No, you want the job? I said, yes. So that started my career here, May 15th of 2000.
So you started here. At that point, it was the North Naples Fire
correct.
District. And in a short period of time, you created or developed the CERT team for North Collier.
Yeah, well, that had already started. Chief Webb and Chief Tobin had kind of started the idea of CERT, which is the acronym for Community Emergency Response Team, where we train the people of our district to take care of themselves prior, during, and after an event. You know, what's an event? An event is a hurricane. An event is something, we're on a peninsula here, you know? And it starts June 1st and it goes to the end of November. I said, so we have to be prepared. So each neighborhood, they designed to have a CERT team with uniforms, kind of a t-shirt and a hat and tools and all, so they could take care of their community because we couldn't be going all over our big district, which is quite large, and therefore that was the premise of the CERT team. And I was just employed just a short time, as Captain Spencer said. Next thing you know, I have the CERT team. I kind of dumped in my lap, which was fine. I got to meet and train thousands of people. I mean, it was over all the years I was here, I met some spectacular people, and it's still going on. The CERT team.
I just want to let you know that last night I had a CERT meeting and I filled in for the person who's heading it, and they're still asking, "Where's Jerry?"
Get out of here!
Oh yeah, they're still asking about you.
Oh my God!
You really had a big impact on the community, and
Well,
not just the community, they're little communities.
yes.
To work together, and
was-
when we all work together, great things happen.
Oh gosh,
So
I
they
wish I
still-
had no. I'll come the next next month.
Yeah, you know the way it goes. I got to call at 5 o'clock.
Of
Hey, can you
course,
be there
you-
at 5:05?
I
So,
got it. Yeah.
right. So that all went well. But now you did that, and then, you know, as I'm doing a timeline in my head, we're getting close to September 11th, 2001.
Right.
Now, before that, you had made a trip to New York, and explain that story of why you went to New York.
Well, I got hired in May, like I said, May 15th, by Chief Tobin. And about a month later, he said to me one day, right here, "We have a fire helmet here from New York City." I said, "How did you get that?" He says, "A man came into Pelican Bay Station 44. He's a resident now. Go back to 2000, and he's a resident here, and he didn't want his helmet. He didn't want his father's helmet, so he gave it to us." So I mean, to me, a fire helmet is like a partier. So I said, "Gee, that's okay." So we ride over to Station 44, and in the kitchen, up on the wall, is this old black leather helmet. And the front piece has in red 42. I look at it immediately, and I knew that that helmet came from the South Bronx, because that was the fire commissioner's firehouse. I was his press secretary. I just left there. And that helmet is here in Naples. He explained the story, which I just briefly said, about this man walking in, didn't want the helmet, and there it is. So we came back right here. We came back here, and I called New York City. I called the fire commissioner, and I got him on the phone. And of course, the typical firehouse humor, who the hell would hire you? So I said to him, "Tommy, I'd like to bring the fire helmet back." Chief Tobin said, "Yeah, let's take it back. But the only problem was the firehouse was being renovated on Progress Avenue in the South Bronx. Engine 73, ladder 42. And it wouldn't be finished until 2001. So this is like June or July of 2000. So, okay, so now we had an idea, we were going to bring the helmet back. So almost a whole year passes. I had been in touch with the press office over that time, with Frank Ribbon, who took my place as the press secretary, and very good friends. And he said to me in July, "You know, you better start making your plans to come up here because the house is going to be renovated in September." So as closer it got, I got a hold of George Kuntz, whose father was George Kuntz Sr., the man who had, it was his helmet, Chief Tobin, and Chief Wayne Jones. And it turns out that the dedication was September 10th, 2001. Who would have known? But September 10th was another day, Chris. So we flew up on September the 8th. We went to 23 Truck in Harlem, my first firehouse. They were treated us royally. We went to 131. Went out to Staten Island. Never went to the Trade Center. I was there for the few days. And the morning of September 10th, we went to ladder 42, engine 73 in the South Bronx. And there were hundreds and hundreds of firefighters there from the old house that were members there before. And I got reunited with a lot of firemen that I had been working with. Mayor Giuliani, Father Michael Judge, one of our Catholic chaplains, and a number of my friends, staff chiefs and firefighters. And the firemen had built an altar on the apparatus floor because Father Judge was going to say Mass. So we all gathered there, and we had the helmet with us that we were going to present later in the morning to the captain of ladder 42. So Father Judge did an incredible Mass. It was the last Mass that he ever said, because he was, number one, the first person killed at 9/11. But this is the day before, September 10th. So Father Judge has a very, I read about his prayers that he says, and every now and then they run it on Facebook. And anyway,
So you do the mass, and you've got the fire chief, you've got the mayor, you've
right?
got firefighter, chaplain, judge there.
Yes.
And you've got all these people there, a big party, food, good times, right. Other truck companies, engine companies showing up,
right,
doing a celebration.
Correct.
And then you leave.
Then we leave. We present the helmet back to the captain. I have a beautiful picture of all of us standing there with the captain of 42 truck at the time holding the helmet that was here with Chief Tobin and Wayne Jones and myself, about 6 of us there. And we then go next door to the Dominican Republic Social Club. And as you just said, there's food and all kinds of good camaraderie going on and all. And so it got to be, we were flying out that evening. So I'm sitting having a sandwich with Peter Gansey, the chief of department. Wonderful man, worked his way up, loved by his men. He was a firefighter. That's what he'd say. I'm not a chief, I'm a firefighter. So we're sitting there with Chief Tobin all around, and I took out, I said, when are you coming to Florida to play golf? He says, this winter. So this is incredible. I take out my business card that says, Jerry Sanford, Public Information Officer, North Naples Fire Department. I hand the chief my card. Okay, so we say goodbye. Father Judge comes over, he hugs me and blesses me, and we leave. We leave for LaGuardia Airport. We get to the airport. This is the evening, like it's about 6 o'clock, Monday night, and put our stuff on the conveyor. It goes in, blah, blah, blah. And we had one phone. Back in those days, not a lot of people had a phone. I had a phone. I don't know why I wound up with the phone. I had a phone. And we're sitting there waiting for our plane to be called. And it starts to rain. And it's raining and raining and raining, and now it's really pouring. So much that we look up on the board, and it's our flight to Fort Myers on US Air, still flying back then, has been delayed. Then from delayed, it goes to canceled. So now we go up to the counter, and we find out that the airport is closed because of this horrific storm, and JFK is closed and Newark Airport is closed. So all 3 New York airports on the evening of September 10th, that most people don't know what happened unless you're there, we had to get out of town. There's no way we were flying out that night. And our luggage went down the conveyor belt somewhere. So now, there we are at LaGuardia. I called my daughter, who lived in Riverdale, upper part of the Bronx, and she sent her husband, my son-in-law, to LaGuardia, and they picked us up. But before we did that, we were confirmed for a flight the morning of September 11th to leave about 6 o'clock to Pittsburgh. So we go to Jeannie's. My son-in-law drives us back the following morning. It's a beautiful blue sky, September 11th, 2001. Not a cloud in the sky, magnificent. We get to LaGuardia, we get on the plane, and it's ironic, we're flying down the East River parallel going south, and I look out the window and I'm leaning over these Florida guys, and I'm pointing out, oh, there's the UN building, there's the Empire State Building, as we're going down the East River, oh look, there's the Twin Towers. And we go right by, past the Statue of Liberty, and over Staten Island, the world's largest garbage dump, where I lived, and we land in Pittsburgh. It's about 8:30. 8:30. And we were standing there, and back in those days, the pilot and the crew was outside, very lax, and Wayne Jones says, I gotta go to the bathroom. So Chief Tobin and George get on the plane. It's like right there. And I'm standing here, and Wayne Jones goes down, and he's going to the bed. He goes to the head. Now it's about 8:45, and Wayne Jones starts screaming my name. Jerry, Jerry, hurry up, come down here. So I walk down and I look up, and that's when I saw the first tower had been hit by a plane, obviously. My initial thoughts did not fathom that it was an airliner. I thought it was a sightseeing plane. That was my initial thought. And then, but I knew that my brother firefighters would be responding there, going in and going up. I mean, it's our job. So I go back, and now the captain of the plane says to me something like, I'm kind of in a shock. Are you all right? I mumbled something like, no, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. So I got on the plane, I'm sitting there. Now, nobody on the plane knows what I'm talking about. It's just me and Wayne. And we're talking to Tobin and talking to these people, and pilot comes on and announces over the loudspeaker that all those commands to close the doors and all, we're getting out of here. It was an incident in New York City. So he backs the plane up, not far, away from the terminal, and stops and says, the FAA has grounded all flights. So we get back to the gate. We had no luggage, to absolutely pandemonium. People running through, screaming in the Pittsburgh airport. Like, what is going on here? So we said, I said, look, I gotta go back to New York. I don't know about you guys, I gotta go back to New York because that's what's happening. So how are we gonna get there? So we all get on a different rental car, Hertz, Avis, we had no idea. Each one of us got on a line that had signs up, no more cars, blah, blah, blah. It was unbelievable. So we finally get a car, and by the time we got a car and got out of the airport, a number of things that happened that we didn't know about. We didn't know that the second tower had been hit. We didn't know that a plane had crashed into the Pentagon. And here we are in Pittsburgh, and a plane crashed in Shanksville. We didn't know any of this. So we get in the car, now we're in the car, and we turn the radio on, and this is what we hear. There's those three things what I just said. So now, they're on the radio telling us this terrorist attack, and all I had was my radio. So we found a mall right near the airport in the vicinity. So they wouldn't let me drive because I was a head case. The thoughts in my head going around, so Wayne went in, I think it was Wayne, and he got a Rand McNally, a map, and a charger for my phone. So we got back, so now we're in the car, and we're listening to the reports coming over the radio. We're not seeing anything. And now we're hearing about Pentagon, the second tower, Shanksville. Remember Wayne saying, geez, we're right near here. Shanksville is right near Pittsburgh. So we're riding someplace and get on some kind of highway. I said, look, we gotta stop at a rest area. We gotta see what's going on. We're hearing. But just before that, the announcer on the radio reports that both towers had collapsed. Now, I saw them being built when I was traveling to Ladder 23 back in the 60s from Staten Island up to Harlem, and I just couldn't fathom the fact that these towers would disintegrate and come down like they did. So we stop at a rest area, and I run in, and that was the first that I saw of that cloud, and both of the towers gone. And we're in West Virginia, or we're somewhere in Pennsylvania. So I don't know how it happened, but I took my phone and I called fire headquarters. And Lisa answered the phone. She was one of the commissioner's secretary, and she was just screaming and screaming and crying and telling me, Jerry, they're all gone. They're all dead. These are the men I was with the day before, having a sandwich. And I couldn't even understand through her crying and all what. So we drove. That was never. Drove all night. They wouldn't let me drive, and our cars we had left at the old airport here, RSW. So we said, let's get our cars. So as we approached the entrance to RSW, the state troopers have the whole thing blocked. And so we tin them, we tell them where we are, and we got to get our cars. And these state... tin them means a badge, okay?
You flash your badge.
You flash your badge. Here, wait a minute, I got it here. I got my old, anyway. I flashed my badge, and they allow us to go in. So, and we're also figuring, well, while we're here, the plane might have come down last night with our luggage on it, so maybe we can get our luggage. So we pull up into the terminal, and there's nobody there. There's nobody. There's not a car, there's not a soul, there's not a person. And as far as you can see, the terminal, we're outside now, there's nobody. Not a taxi, not a luggage. So we get out of the car, and door, I guess, was open, and we now are walking into the terminal. Nobody. Silence. An eerie. So we finally, hello, we're screaming, hello. And then we hear some voices, and the door opens up behind one of the airline, I don't know what it was, which one it was, American, Continental, it doesn't matter. And the door is open about 3 inches. Now we're behind the counter now of this, and we're up to and the people, who are you? And we again take out our badges, and we told them, we're from the North Carolina, blah, 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 and we want to get our luggage. Like they were scared shit. These people were, look, the whole country didn't know what was happening. So they didn't open the door. They just said, we have no luggage, we have no anything coming down, blah, blah, blah. So we then get our cars, and that was Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. No, I'm sorry, Wednesday. The attacks happened Tuesday, and we drove all night. We got back here Wednesday. So happy to be reunited and be home. We all were reunited to be back with our loved ones, with my wife and all. And then on Thursday, I came in here as to Tobin. And I said to him, Chief, I'm going back to New York. I don't care if I lose my job, I'm leaving. Because I had previously, Maria and I had airline tickets to Philadelphia to attend a christening for one of our grandchildren. He says, go. So we flew up on, I think, Friday. It was the first day that the FAA had allowed people to fly. So we flew to Philadelphia, to Diane's house, and on Sunday was the after Mass. There was the baptism of Jack Ryan Kennedy was baptized. So that afternoon, we left the church and we went to a restaurant, and I called fire headquarters. And this would have been like 5 days after the attacks, or something like that. And I somehow, God is good, I got the fire commissioner on the phone. I got Tom Von Essen on the phone and told him where I was. I'm in Philly and I want to come back. And he said, Jerry, we can use all the help that we can get. So on Monday morning, I borrowed a car, a relative's car, and drove up to New York, to Brooklyn. But on my way, I went through Jersey, and I stopped to see my son Glenn. my oldest son in a rest stop on the Garden State Parkway. We were there quite a while because I didn't want to leave him because I didn't know what I was gonna face in New York City. So I drove up and drove over the Verrazano Bridge and looking north to Manhattan Island, and that terrible cloud was drifting across the bay, across Brooklyn into Queens. So I got to fire headquarters, and they started. One of the things I had to get ID because I was going to go to the site, so I had to have my picture, all that stuff, and I started getting boots and hand cream and toothbrushes and all that kind of stuff, and some fire department clothes. And that evening, Paul Annunziata, who was 3 or 4 years before, was one of the firefighters that worked for me in the press office. So he took me by department car over to the site. And there I was standing on Monday night, 6 days after the attacks. I was standing on the pile on West Street, looking down. It looked like a television scene from a movie. Little people, little firefighters, and looking, and the smoke from the site, just acrid smoke, just billowing up. And then that night he took me back, and I was back in my old office that I had left a few years before. And then they said to me, look, we want you to go over to Pier 96 on the Hudson River and work with Mayor Giuliani's press people. So I did that for a few days. And on a sidebar from that, I'm working the phones and all, but I don't know where I'm going to sleep. So this is, I guess, Tuesday, a week later, and a kid that used to work for me, he saw me, and I said, hey, you got to get me a place to sleep tonight. And all I had was a pulling bag with some things, some shirts and old underwear and stuff, having come from my daughters. And then during the day, the hospital ship, the SS Hope, they brought it up from Baltimore, and it was tied up right next to the pier. The mayor had, like, every 2 hours he did a press conference, and I was part of that crew and all. And now the pier is emptying, and I'm looking for Cookie. Well, it's Cookie. You know, he's supposed to get me someplace to sleep tonight. Well, Cookie disappeared. That was the end of that. So now, after our last press, the mayor did his last thing. I guess it was about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. There I am with a couple of bags and pulling this thing, and where am I going to sleep? Oh, there's the ship. So me and cops and whoever was there I am going up this gangway, and I finally, the last time I slept on a ship was 1956. That was a long time ago. Long time ago. So there I go up, and I'm laying in the racks, so nothing's changed. You know, they're all 2 feet, and there's somebody's ass in your face, and you're laying in there, and so I put my shit on the side, and I get into this bunk and get up in the morning and take a half-ass shower, and everybody's looking at each other. And so now I go back down and back to the desk that I had manned the day before, and we did a couple of press conferences. By now I look like shit, and I finally see Cookie. Big kid, like the size of the door. So I forget the vulgarity I used to call him. And, hey, where'd you disappear last night? Blah, blah, blah. So he says to me, I got you. So the hours go by. We did a whole bunch of other stuff with the mayor. And then about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm sitting there working the phones. And these 2 New York State troopers walk up to me with the big hats on. And they said to me, you Commissioner Sanford? I said, yeah, it's about time they got it right. You know, the hell do you think I am? And they're like, oh, okay, Commissioner. We're here. So Cookie comes over and says, hey, Commissioner, taking you to the Waldorf Astoria. I said, oh, well, it's about time. I said, I didn't want one of those where they leave the lights on for you, you know. So we go to the wall. Okay. So now I get all my crap, my bag, Everybody's looking at me. I go out with these two huge 6'9" guys, and we get in this state trooper car with all kinds of arrows sticking out of the trunk. I call them, you know, we get in that, and they put the lights and sirens on, and we go about 2 blocks, and I'm like, stop the car. Turn off that shit. So they'll pull over, and I said, look, I'm not a commissioner, I'm Jerry Sanford, okay? I said, before we get to the Waldorf, you got to take me, I got to go to Macy's, I got to get underwear. So they're looking at me like, what? Yeah, I got to get underwear. I says, I've been all over the place here. Starting to stink, I need underwear. So we go to Macy's. So now, this is a funny part of my stories. So now we go to Macy's, I wind up with another plastic bag. So now, Chris, I have a box with combat boots in. I got about 3 bags of all kinds of toiletries and stuff. I got a bag full of underwear, and I'm pulling this thing. So we pull up in front of the Waldorf. Now this is quite amazing. The Waldorf Astoria, probably one of the most famous hotels in the world. And there's a metal detector in front of this hotel. I get out of this car, the Waldorf, I'm thinking, my God. I mean, cops all over, and there's the metal detector. So I bring all my crap, and I go there, and there's a guy on the other side. He's got a clipboard. Can I help you? He says something. I says, yeah, Jerry Sanford. I said, New York City Fire Department. He looks, all right, come on in, Mr. Sanford. So I go through this metal detector, you know. People are looking at me like, who the hell? You should be in the back where the deliveries are, you know. I'm like, so I go in, and now I'm standing there. Now I'm looking up at the stairs, white marble stairs that these kings and queens and all kinds of royal people have walked up. And here comes Sanford with his bag of bags and pulling my shit. So I go up about quarter way up, and the underwear comes out of the bag, and now the underwear slides down the steps of the Waldorf Astoria. And the people are looking up like, really? You know, you really have to be here? When I checked out, I said to them, I want my bill. And that people came out from different offices to thank me for what I did. And I have a bill home somewhere, nothing. A bill from the Waldorf Astoria with charges with nothing. They never charged me. I mean, I just, the country and everybody was just one. We just one. I don't know what happened in 22 years. So anyway, I stayed up there till like the middle of October. I came back here every other weekend. I would come back here to see my wife and get clothes and this and that. And the weekends I stayed up and I visited my daughter and my granddaughters in Riverdale. And of course went every day, took the media to the site for interviews and all. And they all wanted to go to a firehouse, you know, but didn't allow that, you know. It was bad enough. I could go to a firehouse and walk in, as Chris could do, and mourn and talk to the brothers, but it just wasn't, you know, the media, they wanted a widow, they wanted a firefighter, they wanted somebody, you know, so they could enhance their story, and I wasn't allowed. Nobody told me. I just knew that wasn't going to happen. Working there, one morning, I came from the hotel and I went over. We'd have a kind of a brief meeting, the commissioner, and he said to me, "I just got a call from the White House. Jay Jonas, they want Captain Jonas flown down. I'm going with them tonight. We have to go. President Bush is going to recognize him from the gallery when he talks to the nation." Now I'm looking at him like, wow. He said, you got to find Jonas. So Captain Jonas was now a battalion chief, because with all the deaths of all the ranks of the firefighters, they made lieutenants, they made captains, they made battalion chiefs. So now I got to find out where Jay Jonas is. So I finally locate Jay Jonas. Now the reason, let me tell you about Jay Jonas. He was in 6th Truck, and he came in with his firefighters before the towers collapsed, and he was ordered to go up and check the floors. I forget which tower it was. So he goes up with the guys from 6th Truck, and they're searching floor to floor to floor to floor, and they go up, and probably about the 30th or 35th floor, on the way down is some people, and they encounter a woman, a heavy-set woman. Her name was Josephine Harris. She worked for the Port Authority, and she had an asthmatic condition, kind of a heavy woman, and she was having a hard time descending the stairs. So they found her, and at the same time that they found her, they hear this swoosh, this terrible noise. So he sends one of his firefighters over, look out the window to find out what it was, and it was the tower next to him had collapsed. The North Tower had come down. So I guess they were in the South Tower. Okay. So he said, okay, we got to get out of here. So he starts down the stairs, and in fact, the name of the story turns out to be The Miracle in the Stairway, if you ever want to look it up. Anyway, they're coming down, and the tower collapses on top of a number of people, including the members of Ladder 6, Jay Jonas and Josephine Harris. And there they are, trapped under this debris in the tower. And he told me later on, they looked up and all they saw was blue, and it was the sky. They were upside down, laying in just a stairway. And and then they got them out. They rescued them all. It took a while for rescue and all of them, for them to jury rig up a way for them to get out. And they got out, and word of that rescue, or of them surviving, made it down to Washington. So now that's the story behind it. So now I have to get a hold of Jonas. So I find him, and he's in a battalion somewhere, and I tell him, it's Jerry, blah, blah, blah. I'm relieving you of duty right now. Wherever you are, I'm sending a captain. He's going to be ABC, and you're relieved of duty. Where is your dress uniform? He says, it's in a cleaner up in Rockland County. Okay, that's not going to help. So I then made numerous phone calls to different battalions, asking battalion chiefs, first of all, what size are you, Jay? Are you 48, 42? So I had to literally assemble a dress uniform for Battalion Chief Jay Jonas. Did that, took hours, all day, to finally get all this clothing for him and get it to him and get to LaGuardia Airport to fly down. They sent a jet up, one of these military, whatever, and him and Von Essen, they fly him down to DC. Now I'm like, I got to see what I did. I mean, I did all this, all blah blah blah. I got to see the president. So I get in the car. I had a department car assigned to me, and I head over, I guess one of the bridges, and all south of Canal Street was dark. And I got to see what I worked on. So I go out on the west side to the meatpacking district, and I'm heading north on the west side through the West Village, and I see a bar open, and it's a biker bar. There's all kinds of bikes, motorcycles lined up, and at that time I had my red fire department jacket. Had our logo, Jerry Sanford, press secretary, and on the back in big yellow letters was FDNY Press, spelt out. So I go in. I try to get in the door. Place is packed. I get in, and there's about 7 televisions. They got cartoons on one, and NASCAR, and all kinds of stuff on. I think, oh great, and it's about 10 to 9. President's going live to the nation at 9 o'clock. I finally get the attention of one of the bartenders or somebody, and his kid comes over, and he said, "What do you want?" or something like that. And I said, "I'm with the fire department. Where's the boss? Where's the owner?" So this guy, he gets him, he comes over, like, you know, typical New York. "Yeah, what do you want?" I said, "I'm with the fire department." I turn around, I said, see my jacket?" I says, at 9 o'clock, I want all these televisions turned off and put on the President of the United States. I mean, him and the other guy, they look at me like I'm nuts. I said, you hear that? All these televisions, okay. So let me pause a minute. 9 o'clock, click, he turns them all off. Turns them all, and you see the presidential seal. Come on, we all know what that looks like. And the place, you could hear a pin drop. Silence. And then somebody starts USA. USA. There I am standing at the door, tears coming down my face. The place erupts. Erupts. USA. I mean, I've never been in a situation like that in my life, and never will be again. And then Bush came on, and he recognizes Jay Jonas up in the gallery, like you've all seen him recognize people over the years. And Jay Jonas got up, and President Bush recognized him and told the world about the miracle in the stairwell. Okay, so now, a couple of weeks later, I'm at a funeral for a firefighter, and I run into Jay Jonas. Of course, we hug and all, and I said, "Jay, how was Washington?" He said, "It was wonderful, Jerry. It's a good thing," he said, "the cameras didn't pan down." He said, "You got me everything but dress shoes. I was wearing sneakers." And I mean, that's, you talk about in tragedy, but it turned out it was that was an incredible in a biker bar in the West Side. I got to see him being recognized by.
Being on the front lines for that whole thing was in my opinion, and working and knowing that you were up there, I was so impressed that you had been up there, and impressed in a good way, in an honorable way, about for all the younger people that are out there getting this. These are our mentors. These are the sages of the fire service. We need to follow them and learn from them, and as they are leaders in their own way. After 9/11, and after your time up there, you came back here to Naples.
Right.
And you and some people got together and started working on the Freedom Memorial Project.
About 2003, I got a call one day from a commissioner, a Collier County Commissioner, Fred Coyle. And he said something like this, "Are you the New York guy?" I says, I don't know, Commissioner, I guess I am. Why? Are you the firefighter?" Yeah, I was the firefighter, blah, blah, blah. He said, we have an idea down here in the county. We'd like to build a memorial to remember everybody that was killed, and also to honor our veterans, people that have served and all. Would you care to join in? I said, absolutely. So I went down and met with him in 2003, and we had no idea what it was going to look like. I mean, where do you start? We had no, when I say we had no land. We didn't know what it was going to look like. We didn't know where it was going to be. So meeting after meeting, and we then came up with the idea. That was, I think, John Voight, myself, and Commissioner, what's it going to look like? So we put, I'm saying we, the computer people of the county sent out a request throughout the United States for a rendering of the Freedom Memorial. What would it look like? So I think there were 37 or 38 entries that came back, and they were all displayed in the office on the first floor of the commission in the government center. and the public they walked in and they looked and blah, 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 and eventually it came down to the 5 sitting commissioners to decide what it would look like. So I was on the committee and ruled this one out, and we came up with, I think it was three finalists. And the winning picture, whatever, sketch, was a man from Massachusetts, Jerry Ledoux. And he was having a house built here out in the Golden Gate Estates. He was in Massachusetts, and he just happened to put his computer on one night and found the fact that, and he was an artist, that we were looking for a rendering. What would it look like? And Jerry told me the story weeks later that in pencil, that night he had an idea of what it would look like. He finished it the next morning and he submitted it, and that was the winning entry. And it's a 40-foot long waving American flag, 13 feet high, that sits on the outline of the United States, which is surrounded by the 5 sides of the Pentagon. And that would be a brick walkway, which over the years we probably have over 2,000 to 3,000 bricks that have been placed that the public has purchased. And so now we go back to, we finally got the rendering, where is it going to be? And Commissioner Coyle, being a commissioner, said, okay, get me some land, which he did. The county was building a park, the Gordon River Water Quality Treatment, blah, blah, blah. And out of that, he gave us a little section of the park to build a memorial. And they started and we had no money, so I was tasked with starting to raise money, and with the help of my retired Gulf Coast retired firefighters, which is about 99% of retired New York City firefighters that live here, we were able to raise, I don't know how we did it, we were able to raise about $600,000. To this day, I don't know how we did it, but it was over a number of years. And they broke ground around 2006, and all that time there was a fence around it, and then of course the economy in this country went in the toilet, and people had a hard time eating, never mind giving Jerry money for the memorial. But we stuck with it, and eventually we got money, and I'm happy to say it was dedicated on the 15th anniversary, was 2016 was when it was dedicated, and I've been on the project ever since it started, and I urge you to please visit it. Visit the memorial. It's at Golden Gate Parkway and Goodlick Frank Road, and also surrounding it are 50 round stakes with the name of the state across the granite. Everything is granite from the United States. We got it all from a company up in Minnesota. So that's Freedom Memorial.
I know that piece of property before it was given to you. They didn't give you a prime piece of real estate.
No.
It was a swamp, it was a runoff from
Yes,
water on the highways and everything like this. And although they called it ecologically balancing there, it was really just a runoff. Now, it is it has transformed itself into the most beautiful walking park with
Correct.
marks and stuff. You want to walk a quarter mile, a half mile.
Yeah.
It's all placed out like that. And it's just a really beautiful, tranquil place with palms, with lilies and some natural
Yes.
animals that are from our area here. And I find a lot of solace when I go and
Thank
I walk
you.
there.
Yes.
But there's one thing that I wanted you to touch on about the Freedom Memorial. And as you walk up the walkway, and there in front of you is that giant, beautiful, waving flag of granite that rose, just like the country came united and
Yeah.
rose to create this. In the back of that monument are 2 pieces of steel.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. I still had a lot of connections with New York City, and so I made some phone calls, and I was able to get 2 pieces of steel that were placed probably about 5 years ago in the walkway from, I don't know what part of the tower or where they came from, but they are installed behind, as Chris said, in the walkway. So when you go there and you walk around, wow, there's 2 pieces of steel from 9/11 that were donated to us, to my Gulf Coast retired firefighters, and very impressive that they.
What I find even more impressive is, we've done an awful lot of talking about the fire department. You're also very involved with our veterans, and you have a breakfast that you do, and you reach out to them. And I was wondering if you could give us a
Yeah, sure. I was involved with an organization here called the Honor Flight, and where we took World War II, Korea, and Vietnam veterans up to Washington, D.C. for the day. And I got involved with it, wow, a number of years ago, maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago. And I made a number of flights myself. And then I got on the committee. And then a few years ago, I left the committee of the Honor Flight, and along with some other people. And there we were. Loved veterans, knew how to do some fundraising, so we started another group called Gulf Coast Veterans and Friends. And what that does is there was a man here in town. His name was Homer Helter. He had a military museum down on Shirley Street in Naples, and he got ill. His wife had this. Both of them used to run the museum, but in the back of the museum he had a little enclave, a little get-together place, and every day he used to have veterans come for coffee and camaraderie and Army against Navy, all that kind of stuff. So when he passed away, she couldn't keep it up. So I was still working here at the North Collier Fire Department, and I went to the chief and I asked him if we could, I would like to get a hold of these veterans that had kind of disappeared because they didn't have a place to go for breakfast. So he graciously said, yes, why don't you use Station 48, which at the time was still fairly new. It had just been built. So we started there, but I had to go find the veterans. Where were they? So I went around to a number of restaurants in the morning, and I finally was able to gather them, and they looked at me like I was nuts. Like, you're gonna do what? I said, yeah, I want you to come to the firehouse. So we started at Ladder 48, and it grew and grew. I think we had maybe 8 the first Saturday, and it grew and grew. It got so big that, and of course it's an active firehouse, Ladder 48, so we had to move. And we've moved 3 times since then, and we meet now at Fleischman's Park. There's a education building there where the kids do the skateboard and all, and we meet there every Saturday at 9 o'clock. We have a free breakfast, and we have World War II, Korea, and Vietnam vets. And we have a little brief ceremony at 10 o'clock. We salute the flag. God bless America. I have interesting guests come in, speakers, that talk to the veterans about the different benefits that they're due and other interesting things about the community. So thank you. I've very involved with that, and it's great. They walk by me, and I sit there and I check them in, and they just go, "Thank you, Jerry," and that, it speaks volumes.
I want to let you know I'm not a veteran, but I appreciate everything that you've done in being here at Station 45 in Veterans Park in Naples, Florida.
Yes.
We have a lot of our employees are veterans from all different branches.
Right.
And it's always good to hear the Army, Navy, Marine,
yes,
bantering back and forth, which makes the brotherhood so
strong.
Interesting and strong. But I also wanted to point out, just to clarify that, you talked about World War II, Korean and Vietnam veterans. There's a lot of veterans that were serving in the Middle East and different parts. They're now aware of your group there. So keep cooking the eggs, keep
Oh,
cooking
yeah.
the bacon, how they're going to come. And it is a great place for them to just hang out
Right.
and talk and meet other people, and sometimes even work through some issues that they may have developed through that. So for that, I thank you very, very much.
My pleasure, and I look forward to it every Saturday. You know, at 6 o'clock in the morning when I put my feet on the floor, I'm like, oh, the old guys this morning. I'm old myself, but you know, I mean, you get down there and you listen to the banter and all the beautiful camaraderie that's going on. In fact, they're bringing their spouses in there, other people, their other female, and now new friendships have been born out of that, and they do social things, which is great.
So one of the things that you've also neglected to talk about here is the book that you've written, and TikTok, and how you've reached out to around the world to people. So if you could just give me a quick little breakdown on how that came to be. We've already talked about that a little bit, and where you're going with that.
Well, we had a book published, started with the helmet, and to commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11 in November 11th, 2021. She said to me, we have to get on this thing called TikTok, and we did, and we have over 20,000 followers all over the world. The fire department, it's the greatest job in the world, and twice a year when I'm asked to go over and I speak to the new recruits, I tell them this: don't tell them what we have. This is the greatest job in the world. Hundreds of thousands of people want to be a firefighter. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it. I do it all again in a New York minute, and always leave it better than when you found it.
You know, in closing, I would tell you that, you know, the fire service is bringing in a lot of new, young blood, and, you know, there are some really interesting shows out there like Squad 51 when I was a kid, and there was Rescue Me, and now Chicago Fire. And one of the things that I try to impose upon all these people that go into the fire academy is that it's not the uniform. It's exactly what you said. It is the integrity, the honor, the respect, the service before self mentality that makes a firefighter. It's not the costume we wear.
No.
And you, my friend, have led by example brilliantly, better than any diamond out there. So thank you for everything you've done, not just for me, but for this whole community.
Thank you, brother.
Be well, God bless.
Thank you, God. We started this in '03. Commissioner called me from Fred Coyle. You the New York guy? Gee, I guess I'm the New York guy. So we started the project in '03. Built something. And all those times I came down here, not one of you said, where the hell is Jerry? Where's he going? And it wasn't for you. I mean that. Behind me would never be built. All the trucks, everything you did. Thank you again. I might not have another time to say it, but thank you, my brother. Thank you. Lloyd. You, I know you from the beginning. Me and Tobin. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I don't want to be.
You told me how tough you had it in New York, so to make it easier.
George got me the job. He got me the job with you guys.
George is full.
We always blame George.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, George.
It's always George.
Anyway, God bless you all. Thank you.
God bless you.